World's Weirdest Animals, Amphibians, a Smart Kids Club publication. Contents at a glance. Introduction to the Animal Kingdom. We live on an amazing planet. Our Earth is full of incredible things. Some of these things are living and some are not. For example, a rock is not alive. How about a tree? And the bird sitting on its branch? Yes, these are both living things. Scientists divide living things into two groups called kingdoms. There is the plant kingdom and the animal kingdom. The animal kingdom is then divided into vertebrates, animals with backbones, and invertebrates, animals without backbones. Introduction to Amphibians. Are amphibians vertebrates or invertebrates? Vertebrates. They have backbones. Most amphibians begin life underwater as eggs. As they grow, their gills turn into lungs so that they can leave the water and live on land. Their fins help them swim underwater. These disappear and they grow legs so they can move across the land. The word amphibian means two lives. Get it? One life underwater and one on land. Amphibians are cold-blooded. This means they must use the environment to keep warm and to keep cool. Andean marsupial tree frog. It's easy to guess where this frog lives. The Andes Mountains in South America. It is endemic to Ecuador. It lives at a very high altitude, between 7,000 and 12,000 feet above sea level. It lives in forests and grows to be about 2 inches long. What makes this frog weird is what happens to the eggs. After the mother produces the eggs, the father helps put the eggs into a pouch on the mother's back. The eggs stay in this pouch for about 6 weeks. When they become tadpoles, they go into the water to grow into frogs. Axolotl salamander. Axolotl means water monster. The axolotl is a salamander, which is an amphibian. It is known by two other names, the Mexican salamander and the Mexican walking fish. So is it an amphibian or a fish? Good question, because unlike other amphibians, it does not grow lungs and live on land. It keeps its gills and lives underwater. But scientists still call the axolotl an amphibian. An axolotl grows to be about 10 inches long and lives in lakes near Mexico City. This huge city continues to grow, so the axolotl is endangered. Caecilian. Is it a worm or a snake or an amphibian? Kind of hard to tell, isn't it? But it is an amphibian. A Caecilian does not have arms or legs, which is why it looks like a worm. It lives hidden underground in the warm tropical areas of Africa, Southern Asia, and Central and South America. Some kinds of Caecilians are small, but some other larger species grow up to nearly 5 feet long. Caecilians usually have smooth, dark skin, but some species are very colorful. Some people think that Caecilians are blind, but this is not true. Glass frog. Do you know the difference between opaque, transparent, and translucent? Opaque means you can't see through something, like a wall. Transparent means you can see through it, like a window. Translucent means you can kind of see through it, but not as much as something that is transparent. The skin of a glass frog is translucent. You can see some of its organs, like its heart and liver. It is small. It grows no bigger than 3 inches long. Glass frogs live in forests from Argentina to Venezuela and from Mexico to Panama. Harlequin Toad. Harlequin is the name of a character from a play. He usually wears a brightly colored costume, and this is where the Harlequin Toad got its name. It was only discovered in 2007, so it is a new member of the amphibian group. It was found in Suriname, which is a country in the northeast area of the continent of South America. The Harlequin toad is also known as a stubfoot toad, and this new toad has been nicknamed the purple fluorescent frog, even though it's really a toad. It only grows to be 1.5 inches long. Lake Titicaca frog. Do you know where Lake Titicaca is? It is in the Andes Mountains in South America and sits on the border between Peru and Bolivia. And that's where this frog lives. It's an aquatic frog. This means that although it's an amphibian, it lives underwater. What is weird about this frog is that it has a huge amount of loose skin. It breathes through its skin, so this large amount of skin helps it breathe, especially at the high altitude where it lives. At high altitudes, there is less oxygen than at lower altitudes. It grows to be 5 inches long. Lungless salamander. This is another amphibian that almost looks like a worm or a snake, but if you look closely, you can see that it has 4 legs. The lungless salamander lives over a wide area of the Western Hemisphere, from British Columbia in Canada in North America, the whole way down to Brazil in South America. There are also some species that live in Europe and in South Korea. If they don't have lungs, how do they breathe? They breathe through their skin. Another unusual thing is that they lay their eggs on land, not in the water. Madagascan tomato frog. Do you know where Madagascar is? It is a very large island on the east coast of the continent of Africa. This frog is endemic to this island. This means that it is only found here and can't be found anywhere else on Earth. It gets its name because it's reddish-orange and sort of round, and so it looks like a tomato with legs. Scientists think that the bright color makes other animals think that the frog's skin is toxic or poisonous, so they stay away. This frog lives in tropical forests and wetlands like swamps and marshes. Salamander. The salamander is an aquatic amphibian like the axolotl salamander. Instead of leaving the water and living on land, it lives its entire life underwater. This is unusual for amphibians. The is also known as a proteus, and it is endemic to the waters that are found in caves in Central and Southeastern Europe. Because it lives its whole life in the dark, its eyes do not develop, so it is blind. To make up for this, its senses of smell and hearing are very good. Believe it or not, the can go without food for up to 10 years. Vietnamese mossy frog. This frog lives in the forests and wetland areas of Vietnam. It is also called the mossy frog and the Tonkin bug-eyed frog. Tonkin is the name of the northernmost area of Vietnam. It gets the name mossy because its skin is green and brown, and at a distance it looks like moss. This is a good example of camouflage, where the color of the skin of an animal helps it blend in with its surroundings and helps it to hide from other animals. The mossy frog is 3 inches long, and when scared, it curls up into a ball and plays dead. Interesting facts. The word amphibian comes from a Greek word, Amphibios, which means both lives. and refers to the fact that amphibians begin life in the water and then later live on land. Amphibians were the first vertebrates to live on land. This happened hundreds of millions of years ago. Growing up to 5 feet long, the biggest amphibian in the world is the Chinese giant salamander. A group of frogs is called an army. Many species of amphibians breathe oxygen through their skin, which is often moist and thin. One way to tell the difference between a frog and a toad is that frogs have smooth, moist skin, and toads have dry, bumpy skin. You cannot get warts from touching a frog or a toad. Frogs don't chew their food, they swallow it whole. Over 75% of all frog and toad species live in the world's warm tropical rainforests. Frogs can only live in fresh water. They cannot live in salt water. Because some amphibians breathe through their skin, pollution is very dangerous, and many amphibians are becoming extinct. A frog has eyes and a nose on top of its head, so that it can breathe when most of the rest of its body is under the water.